Hello and welcome to a special edition of The Big Fight. Next week is the budget. First time the budget's going to be on the 1st of February, and the Supreme Court says, yes, you can go ahead with the budget even though state assembly elections are coming. So, on the 1st, we're going to try and figure out, hopefully, big bang steps announced by the government to take the economy forward, to carry on the war against corruption and black money, and we all hope, fingers crossed, some thanks to the rest of the country for all the support that they've given through this entire period of demonetization and note ban, because if the logic of demonetization is correct, then a lot of extra money should have come to the government from that tax amnesty scheme or, black money which was just extinguished. So hopefully the finance minister has some room to play around with. Now, is he going to be cautious? Is he going to be big bang? Is he going to do tax giveaways? Or are they going to be fresh taxes? He's saying, look, hit everyone while the going is still good. Let's try and take some more steps. Let's do some drastic steps right now and go ahead right now. We'll wait to find out. But we have a panel today who are some of the top experts in the field. And I can tell you, by the time the next 1 hour is over, all of us will hopefully have a much clearer idea of what is actually going to come in the budget. Or if not that, at least what the key points are that we should be looking forward to. So please put your hands together to welcome P.N. Vijay, top financial analyst, spokesperson of the BJP, helped us understand and talk through all the ramifications of the note ban and now what's going to happen in the budget, as indeed has Surjit Bhalla, who's also here with us. Both of you have been regular members of the show for the last couple of months, and it's great to have both of you here to take us now to the next step. Third person whom I will add to that category, M.K. Venu, founding editor of The Wire. So it's great to have all three of you back helping us understand what is going to be happening. Dr. Ajoy Kumar, spokesperson of the Congress Party, is here with us, who's going to be telling us what he is expecting / fearing, as the case might be. Harsh Mandar has been telling us before many of the budgets in the past that he thinks the budgets are aimed at all the wrong set of people. Harsh, you're going to be telling us that again, presumably at this time. And joining us from Bangalore, Kiran Mazumdar Shaw. Wonderful to have you, ma'am, with us. CMD Biocon India Limited. Professor Yogender Yadav is joining us from Delhi, National President of Swaraj India. Feels that the budget is going to ignore the farmers as it always does. And no better person to tell us what the possible tax bombshells or good things could be and what the key things to look forward to from tax than the person whom I consider one of the top experts on tax in India, Mukesh Bhutani, Senior Partner, BMR and Associates. Should I just kick off by asking you very simply your top prediction from the budget, and then we'll take it from there. Your top prediction, what's going to happen in the budget?
Vikram, given the environment of the demonetization and the need for step up in investment, and the fact that government has over the last 2 years put in an ambitious investment plan, and the real need to get a sluggish consumer economy back, I expect a fairly strong investment and consumption spending related budget. The question is, where does he find the money? And also the imponderables here, which are very serious, are what at the end of 31st March, what will be the tax collections from all this? Okay. Secondly, GST is probably going to be kicking off from July 1st. That's from February 15 to April 1st, they're going to sit down and work out the rates. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? So it's all extremely
some sort of
complicated.
A roadmap for GST.
So while we are shooting in the dark, it's likely even the FM is shooting in the dark.
Okay. Your expectation. By all accounts, the Prime Minister's popularity actually has gone up after note ban, if some opinion polls in recent times are to be believed. You can almost imagine the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister scratching their head and saying, agar note bandi ke baad our popularity goes up, let's see what fresh things we can do now.
First question is surveys and all things changed. People don't say what is incumbent 2.5 years over, so I'm not going to guess what's going to happen in future. We believe that they're going to get a huge drubbing.
One survey right now on a rival challenge said 360 seats for the NDTV elections.
So let me put it. So if you lose UP and if you lose Punjab and if you lose Goa and etc., then the things change. So I'm not going to get into it. But fundamental issue is, this is the first time you're presenting a budget with the finance minister going blind. They wanted to prepone it saying they want to spend money from 1st April, which was a laudable objective, because the GST was going to start on the 1st of April. Now the GST is not happening. You have not finalized the GST rates. So this again, like the old government, again on imagination, imaginary revenue, imaginary projects. Looking at this government, we would expect a lot of announcements. But on the ground, they will keep talking of the poor people.
Lots of announcements. I'm writing this down. Lots of announcements, but no action on the ground.
And keep announcing on social sector, but underfunding it. Whether it's Mangrega, whether it's, so all social sectors will be grossly underfunded.
Your Big Bang prediction for the budget is lots of hot air.
It's going to be a bunch of hot air. That's right.
Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw, your top prediction from the budget.
I would agree that there is going to be an impetus on consumption. There is going to be incentives for incentivizing investment, exports, and of course infrastructure is part of that. But I would like to go beyond that. I think I would like to see a much greater spend in science and technology. I'm going to sound boring, but I think India is only spending 0.9% of its GDP on science and technology compared to China at 2% and Korea at 4%. And I think we keep talking about innovation and startups and what have you, but we are very underinvested in science and technology. I expect a lot of infrastructure spending. I expect to see some tax benefits to give an impetus to consumption. So there I believe that they will raise the tax slabs, I hope to 5 lakhs and above, and I really think they need to bring down the personal tax rate so that they actually allow more consumption and more money in the hands of the salaried class.
Actually, indirect taxation, I have a feeling in this budget, a lot of that is going to now depend on the GST. So maybe he'll do some moving things up and down to get it in sync with the GST. But on direct taxation, and that's what Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw was saying, that she expects to see some sort of cutting of tax rates. Is that something which you think is realistic? Now, on corporate tax, I guess it would almost certainly be happening, because in any case, he said corporate taxation is going to come down. What about income tax? Because the flip expectation to that is, which some people have, is to show socialist credentials and to crack down on inequality. There is, in fact, some talk of increasing taxes for the super rich.
I don't think that cracking down on inequality has direct semblance with cutting down the corporate tax rate or, for that matter, personal tax rate. So I think there are 2 points being made. One is what Kiran mentioned. The change in slab rates and cutting down the slab rates for individuals will put more money for consumption. So that's one part of it. As far as corporate tax is concerned, there is already a commitment made by the government in 2015 budget that they will bring it down to 25%. I see of probability of that happening in this budget. Maybe he does not bring down the corporate tax rate down to 25% in one budget, because it will speak out insofar as the tax collection is concerned, but bring it down in a phased manner. An opportunity that I think Mr. Jaitley missed in the 2016 budget. I just also want to add one more point to the previous point that the previous speaker made, that it is, yes, a challenge of sorts for the government in the 2017-18 budget document to be able to estimate the indirect tax, particularly the excise and service tax, which will be subsumed into the GST. So I think what's likely to happen is that in the receipts budget of the 2017 budget document, the government will estimate the excise, service tax and customs duty for the first quarter, and thereafter from July 1, if that is anticipated date of the GST rollout, they will have to make certain assumptions insofar as the center's share in the GST for 17-18 is concerned, particularly for the period which is the GST rollout period.
This budget is coming in the middle of two major questions of uncertainty. Number one, what exactly has been the tax bonanza, if any, from demonetization? That's one big imponderable. By now, 28th of January, we should have frankly got some of the answers to that. Certainly how much money has come back and the rest of it, but we haven't got the answers. That's uncertainty number one. Uncertainty number two is exactly how GST is going to play out. So given that there's that uncertainty, would you expect a cautious budget or a big bang type, dream budget type budget?
You know, the idea that the government is going to fly blind, we don't know this, we don't know that. Look, every budget, no matter what, or no matter what has happened, is an uncertain future. Now the question is, are these guys, does the government have it?
But isn't there more uncertainty this time than normally you would have when you're presenting a budget?
But let's look at it. Look, obviously demonetization was a structural break, and it will play out over several quarters. So that's a huge uncertainty. Everything else, though, I do not think so. For example, GST has been in the thinking, in the process, in the analysis for the last 12 years. Now, are you going to tell me that we don't have a clue as to how it's going to work out? I just don't buy that at all. Okay? Every analyst has done it. The Congress did it for 6 years. The BJP did it for 4 years, or whatever it is. All these guys are just blind. The idea that demonetization is an uncertainty, yes. However, we already have, this 3 months have gone by after demonetization. We've got tax returns for November and December, which are rather surprisingly good. The most important objective from my standpoint from demonetization is, if you will, to change the ethos of our taxpayers, to change the climate of our taxpayers, if you put it bluntly, to increase compliance rates.
Okay.
Now
So
therefore, I do not know any theoretical or empirical model which says that you can increase compliance rates without changing tax rates. Slabs we've been doing all this time, and we've gotten nowhere. So therefore, I think if the government does understand what it did on November the 8th, has to bring in an accelerated path towards tax reduction, both for individuals as well as for corporates.
Okay. So
last but not least, there has to be, and this is already being discussed, a rethinking on how to redistribute income. And that's the, Arvind Subramaniam has said about a basic income policy. Whether it's universal or not, I don't think it's going to be universal. But I think a new
you've
framework.
You've given us a lot to think about. Now, hang on. I do want to come back to that point that you just made about changing the ethos of the taxpayer. Harsh Mandar, and I'm going to get Yogendra Yadav in on this. If you go by the logic of what Surjit says, and I agree with him, that's theoretically the logic, then moderate tax rates, you don't do things like introducing wealth tax and other stuff, inheritance tax, which actually we should talk about at some point. Maybe that could be coming. You don't do all of that.
How much you'll get out of it?
All right.
How much will you get out of it?
You'll get
7,500 crores from the securities transaction tax. The last time we had, if you will, a capital gains tax in India, you got 900 crores.
There's no benefit to it other than to send a signal. Redistribution. It's a signal, right?
Yeah.
Second part of what he said, though, is have a signal towards redistribution. Again, that's something which is logical. UP elections are coming, everything else is coming. If the Prime Minister has got certain political benefits from note ban, it's because he was seen as, I'm willing to go after the rich. So the flip side of what he said about lower taxation and the rest of it is, signal something on redistribution, come in and soak the rich. Robin Hood budget.
Not at all.
I don't believe that that's going to happen at all. I think that demonetization did not give a clear signal because it was combined on the one hand with an amnesty. So we went back to the idea of an amnesty, and most of the black money has come back into the system. And I think that the message is actually quite the reverse, that even with such a big bang measure, we ended up touching only the fringes of black money. I think that's the big story of demonetization. So I don't think it gives a clear message. Therefore, I do believe that the budget is going to do what the last two budgets have done, which is making a lot of announcements, but on the ground, just looking at 2 or 3 things. Agriculture employs something like 60% of our people still. It has about 2.25% of the budget expenditure, and 0.3% of the GDP continues to be spent on agriculture. We declared that last year was going to be a Kisan budget. Everyone was very happy. We did the calculations. We found all that had happened was we changed one head to another head, but the bottom line remained unchanged. Likewise, with regard to health, education, we have the RTE for so long. We've still not gone up anywhere close to the 6% that we require. Secondary education has fallen actually from 60 to 75%.
So Harsh, you're wanting more spending on agriculture, on health,
and
on
that will
education.
come to the second part. But I don't
But are you
believe.
expecting it?
I believe that the announcements will happen but the budget will broadly remain sympathetic and soft on large corporations and and with an continued amnesia to the poor.
Just one thing. Just to highlight what Harsha said. The Prime Minister said, "Har khet ko pani."
Yeah.
The requirement is 75,000 crores per year. How much is the budget? 5,000 crores.
Okay.
So this kind of ridiculous announcements.
This type of you come with a conclusion and try to say things that are, for example, at least in 2 of your shows, we heard that agriculture has been annihilated. The same people were saying that. We found that the Rabi crop is one of the record crops. The input of fertilizer and seeds has been one of the record. The delivery of credit has been one of the record.
Yeah.
So, and agricultural inflation is low.
Okay, well,
so,
we will
a lot of this is fear mongering. No. The other point which you were making, which is a very interesting thing, would BJP or the NDA, in its effort to be a champion of redistribution, bring in things like inheritance tax, wealth tax? I think this sort of is a misunderstanding of where the BJP is coming from. The BJP traditionally believes in private capital. I don't think we have done anything in a state government or in a central government when Vajpayee was in power to take away money from rich people just because they are rich. Okay. This type of signaling is totally Congress JNU type of signal. We don't believe in such things.
I agree with that.
You better be careful what you say. If it comes, you're going to be in a lot of trouble 5 days from now.
If an inheritance tax comes, I'll be the most surprised person in the world.
Fact is, when the government rattles out facts, fact is they're accepting themselves that the sugar production is going to be down by 20%. The fact is they keep quoting these numbers. The actual output of Rabi will be when it's produced.
But pulses production is up 40%.
No,
one question.
Gentlemen, don't argue on facts.
Gentlemen,
first question.
Ajoy, P. and Vijay,
no,
you've got 1.5 months. You've got 1.5 months of election to fight.
Debate. No, Surjit forgot his demonetization debate about black money extinguishing, and now he's saying ethos. So that's rich.
Yogendra Yadav. Let me ask you the key question. I mean, we've just hearing Harsh Mander talking about agriculture sector, farm sector. We keep expecting farmer-friendly, agriculture-friendly budget. Logically, just ahead of the Uttar Pradesh election, now that the Supreme Court has said you can go ahead and have a budget just before the assembly elections, and especially they're coming up in Punjab and UP, you would expect something in the budget for farmers and for agriculture. Do you think we're going to see it?
I've always maintained that this particular move, demonetization, was not an economic move. It was essentially a political move through which Mr. Modi hopes to swap a certain section of his traditional vote for a newly acquired vote among the poor. He's trying to do an Indira Gandhi. So, and he did not quite succeed because plan A did not work out. The money he expected to extinguish did not. Here is the second and perhaps the last opportunity for him to reclaim. And I think, being an intelligent political player that he is, I expect him to try and do a Garibi Hatao thing. And to my mind, this will take the following shape. Step 1. Finance Minister will announce that he now has been able to enlarge the tax base. 2, he would say, because of the larger tax base, because every money is now in the bank and cannot be hidden. 3, he would claim GST would suddenly yield a lot more, a bit of optimism, a bit of accounts fudging, and you would have a substantially large amount to be spent, which then in step 2 will be spent on some very big ticket, big sounding, big mega appeal items. It could be something to do with agriculture loan. It could have something to do with Jan Dhan account. It could be a truncated and targeted version of the income scheme. I don't know.
But when you said something around Jan Dhan accounts, are you referring to the persistent rumor / speculation that at some point, they're going to announce, okay, X amount of money will go into every Jan Dhan account? Is that what you're alluding to? But that would be,
as I said,
surprising
it could
if Big Bang.
Many of the things, it could be, I thought that was probably plan A, which did not work out. It may not mean transferring money to Jan Dhan account. It could simply mean a huge overdraft facility, which is not money being drafted, because a very tiny amount of that will actually be utilized. But say overdraft facility of something like 25,000 being given to every Jan Dhan account, which has not deposited more than 50,000 in the last 3 months, something of that kind. So I think we are looking at, we should expect some big Garibi Hatao announcement of the kind which can be presented not only in the UP election. I don't think he's preparing only for the UP election. I think he's basically trying to build himself up for 2019. He is shifting. He's willing to lose, let's say, about 1/3 of his traditional vote base among the traders. And he wants to swap that for, let's say, 1/3 of the poor rural vote base. And as anyone can see, this is a good bargain.